Well, let's go ahead and get started. So again, everyone, my name is Jeremy Duffield. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect with Advizex, and I will be your host for today's activities. Andrew Collins will be demonstrating and talking with us about PowerScale. And we also have Michael Field out in Mesa, Arizona, who is our golf aficionado that we will be after the PowerScale demo, we will be going to Michael to do some golf lessons. So feel free to mute yourself. We'd love this to be interactive. So without further ado, Mr. Andrew, I turn it over to you, sir.
Hey, good afternoon. So I'm Andrew Collins. I'm an advisory systems engineer with Dell EMC. Not used to being on camera so much, so I'm probably looking down a whole lot. But anyway, so I used to be a customer back in the day. I worked for a large healthcare organization. I also worked for a large insurance company with massive infrastructure requirements. Both of those companies were largely centralized around Isilon. So I'm more of a technical resource. So if you have a technical question, or a question about anything, let's get it answered. So I'm willing to dive into anything. So I don't really know the crowd. I don't know a lot of the folks. I don't recognize a lot of the names on here. So I'm just going to be very general, but if you guys want me to jump into something more in depth, please let me know. So we'll kick it off here. Basically, we're going to talk about, what's new with Dell EMC unstructured data solutions. Well, I think it's showing my whole.
You got it showing on. You got. Flip the screen.
Yeah, just one second. There we go. All right, so I'm going to be talking about what's new with Dell EMC unstructured data solutions. So a lot of people have heard in the industry that there's been a rebranding or that there's this new PowerScale thing. I just want to be very clear. Isilon is not going away. It's not being replaced. It's still the same old Isilon. It's just simply being rebranded as PowerScale. PowerScale is basically OneFS or Isilon standardized on PowerEdge servers. So you may hear me use the term Isilon and PowerScale interchangeably. So there is no, Isilon's not going away. I know some of our competitors use that against us to say, hey, they're getting rid of Isilon. It's not true. It's just being rebranded to the term PowerScale. So Isilon's entire purpose, or PowerScale's entire purpose, is to house unstructured data. I simply sum up unstructured data, as anything that doesn't fit into a row or a column. So if it's data that goes into a database, we generally don't deal with databases. If it's any data that doesn't fit in rows and columns, like file data, and there's a ton of different use cases, right? We dip into artificial intelligence, analytics. A lot of the ADAS stuff for autonomous driving is being built on Isilon. Internet of Things, sensors, home directories, video surveillance, file shares, all of these different use cases produce files. Media and entertainment's another one. That's where Isilon actually came from, was out of the media and entertainment industry back in the day. So we have a ton of verticals that we serve. If it's a file, or if it needs, if it's an unstructured piece of data, if it's file data and it's not a database, then generally it can be stored on an Isilon. Also in the middle here, you see it says 80% of the world's data stored is unstructured. I used to think that was kind of a marketing thing, like fluff, and where did they get these numbers from? That's not going to fit across the board. But a lot of times we go in and we assess someone's environment for what is file data, what is block data. It actually holds pretty true. It's usually around 80%. Sometimes it's right at 80%. It's kind of scary. So we're going to jump into the new PowerScale nodes here. So let me move this over. There's 2 new nodes we're adding for kind of the release of PowerScale. If you're a pre-existing Isilon customer, to get these new nodes added to your cluster, you're going to need version 9.0 or above. So we released a new version of 1FS, and with that, we added support for these PowerScale nodes. So basically, we have the F200, which is kind of the little guy. We used to have a bundle called the X210 bundle that was smaller. It was more for like remote office sites, sub 33 terabytes. And with the new Gen 6 release, there was kind of a gap there. If you were below 100 terabytes, Isilon may or may not have been a fit, and we really needed to fill that gap. So they released this F200. It can start at 15 terabytes effective, go up to 30 terabytes or 63 terabytes effective. One thing to note is it's all flash, and we added support for 25 gig connectivity in the front end. There's only 4 drives per node. Historically, in pre-Gen 6 clusters, we had the ability to just start a node pool with 3 nodes. Gen 6 required 4, and now with this PowerScale launch, we go back to only requiring 3 nodes to start a cluster. F200 is great for edge locations, remote locations, or just smaller file environments. One thing to note is I said the term effective. So in the past, Isilon didn't have compression or inline deduplication. We had post-process dedupe, which we still have. But one thing to note is that with this 9.0 release and these new F200s and F600 nodes, these do support inline dedupe and inline compression. So that is there now. Moving on, F600 is a little bit bigger. This is more of a data center play. Instead of all flash, it's NVMe drives. They're looking at QLC in the future. We support 40 gig and 100 gig on these F600 nodes. And as you can see, they're a little bit bigger than the F200 nodes, 63 terabytes, 126 terabytes, 253 to start a node pool, right? So as you can see below, it says 20% better performance than F200. So this is kind of where it fits, right? In the PowerScale family, you have your PowerScale all-flash nodes, which are now, or NVMe, which is the F200, F600. PowerScale, PowerEdge based. As you can see to the left, it's the same 1FS, so we support, Linux or Windows clients, the same box. We also have native support for HDFS. And down here at the bottom, you see Gen 6. We have our all-flash offerings with that. We have our hybrid tier and our archive nodes, exact same 1FS software. And if you go around, you see they all replicate to each other. We pride ourselves on backwards compatibility. As long as you're at 9.1, you can add PowerScale to Gen 6. And also over here, we have Dell Technologies cloud storage for multi-cloud. And that's essentially a data center that has a layer 2 interconnect into the major cloud providers. So you could buy like a remote hosted Isilon in that Dell Technologies cloud storage for multi-cloud and natively replicate to it as well. So here's kind of a picture of all of our node types together. We have our archive tier, A200, A2000, which is more dense, more archive. And Isilon nodes can coexist, so you can have a performance tier and mix it with an archive tier. We have our hybrid tier, which is H600, H500, H5600, H400. And then we get into the all-flash, which is the F800, F600, F200. Obviously, the more performance required, the further right on this list you go. So yeah, it's basically the same Isilon software, right? You can add new nodes and it auto balances. You can write to that new storage within 60 seconds. If you're an Isilon customer and you stick with Isilon, there's 0 data migrations in the future. Like I said before, we pride ourselves on backwards compatibility. You just add the new stuff in, smart fail the old stuff, and your end users have no idea that you're literally ripping and replacing the hardware on the back end. Scalable, right here it says 7 terabytes to 60 petabytes. We've actually got a little bit bigger than that. With our Gen 6 architecture, we can get up to 252 nodes in a single cluster. So we're getting more, upwards of 70 or more petabytes. One of the new things we've added, which I'm going to show you in the demo portion of this, is S3. So we've added S3 as a protocol native. In the past, or we still have cloud pools, which is tiering to an S3 target. So you can take the data that's on Isilon and tier it to an S3 target. In this case, Isilon itself can be an S3 target. So if you have an Isilon cluster and you have a small workload for S3, then we support S3 now. So still unified access. At the end of the day, you are writing via S3, but on Isilon, it is still a file. It's not an object. And so with the initial S3 release, it's kind of a 1.0 release. We support creates, deletes, list buckets, put and getting objects, getting bucket ACLs and metadata, and we can do multi-part uploads. There's also some benchmarking on the F600 and F810 for transactions per second from an S3 perspective. So S3 is on Isilon now. With the 9.0 release, we released Kava-based antivirus, which is a lot better than our ICAP implementations of history's past. We utilize Dell EMC CE to accomplish a different, more streamlined, more effective antivirus capability. We also have faster client failovers. I think it was 8.2.2, we allowed the ability for multi-SSIP. So if a node goes down, we don't have to move the SSIP anymore. It's basically we set the IPs up in a DNS failover relationship and DNS, and boom. A node goes down, it knows it went down, and it goes to the next SSIP, which exists on the next node. There's no actual movement of the service off one node to another. So, client failover, especially if you have SMB3, there is no failover. If you have SMB2, there is a reconnect if a node goes down, but we've made that a lot faster than we've seen in the past. So that's one advantage in the 9.0 code version. So that's kind of the new stuff. We're still the #1 scale-out NAS on the planet. We're still backwards compatible. We're just simply adding some PowerEdge-based Flash and NVMe nodes. We've added S3 as a protocol, and we have, edge to core to cloud model. So that leads me into the last thing I'll talk about via PowerPoint, and we'll jump into some demo stuff. Actually, I'll jump into the demo real quick and show you something. So on Isilon, I'm going to talk about, in this next section, I'm going to talk about a product called Ransomware Defender from a company called Superna. They're a third party, but it's a bunch of ex-Isilon engineers that went in and created the ability to detect ransomware in your file system, which is a huge hot topic nowadays. If you turn on the news, somebody's getting hacked. I went to get gas the other day and stuck the pump because somebody hacked a pipeline somewhere, right? So it is affecting all of us. And if you think that you won't run into ransomware with the situation that's going on now, it's inevitable. It's going to happen eventually. You will get some sort of ransomware in your environment. So in Isilon, we allow the ability to audit. When I say audit, that just means track an end user. When they access the cluster via NFS, SMB, or HDFS, we can log everything that they do, right? So cluster logs on and they open a file. Boom, that's logged somewhere. What's cool too is we can also do configuration change auditing. This is where you get your fellow admins or your buddies in trouble. Configuration change auditing is anything that is a configuration change to the cluster that is logged somewhere as well. So as long as you guys aren't using default, root credentials every time you log in, you can track what configurations were changed by who. But this in the cluster, that's where you enable. You enable here, and then you should forward those logs off somewhere else and not keep them on the cluster. However, I'm going to talk about Ransomware Defender. So Ransomware Defender is basically a VApp that sits external that Saperna provides to the cluster itself. And it's different than other ransomware defense products because those logs that I was talking about that are generated from the cluster via NFS, SMB, and HDFS, it's writing those all the time as end users are doing things. It actually goes in and reads those audit logs in real time. So a normal ransomware, defense architecture would be get the audit trail, take the audit trail, push it off to an external syslog server or whatever, and then from there you have to parse it. That's inherently slower than having a VApp that's pointed back at the logs as they're being written. And in the VApp, you have predefined thresholds for certain activities. So you could say 1,000 deletes or 100 deletes or whatever. We'll call that ransomware. So basically, Saperna will come in and it will detect, hey, this is ransomware activity. This fell outside of a threshold. We're going to kick that user out of the cluster, right? One example of that, I've got it up here, is TrickBot. TrickBot was a modular banking Trojan that gets in. So imagine, number one, you have an end user on their email, but they have map drives to network shares. They click a malicious email. TrickBot uses the SMB module, and all those network drives they have connected to that client start becoming infected with, malware. So 2, network shares start to get affected. And then 3, there's all these things connected to the same network shares. So, other people that are connected to the same share, they go into the share and they click a file or they don't understand what's going on. They click something, then it spreads to all their network drives. So before you know it, you end up in this situation where your file system's kind of locked out. It's either all the files are encrypted or something malicious has happened, and generally that's followed up with some sort of ransom, right? So you'll get some weird guy that wants Bitcoin. In the case of Saperna, end user clicks a malicious email, it starts to crawl their network file shares if it was using the SMB module, and then Saperna immediately sees that activity and it kicks them out. This is perfect for zero-day viruses. You can use antivirus all day long, but if it's a zero-day virus, there's really no way to defend against that unless you have a behavioral ransomware defense product that can see what's going on and determine that something's ransomware. So in this case, if Saperna detects ransomware, it's going to kick that user out, and it's going to track a bunch of really useful information. I mean, most ransomware attacks get audited or investigated. If Saperna detects ransomware and kicks a user out, it's going to immediately track what AD user account was compromised, what files were infected, previous file access history prior to the attack, so you can see everything they touched, any shares that they have access to on all the clusters in your environment, what snapshot names were important that were protecting the file system so you can go back and revert, and then what client caused the attack, right? So it gathers all this data about attack as well, so you can pass that over to whoever's investigating or auditing it, right? So real-time analysis locks the user out. You can whitelist, so if you have an application that kind of falls outside of normal behavior. Say you have an application that does 1,000 deletes, you can put it on a whitelist. It is multi-cluster aware. And Saperna's got some other cool products like air gap and golden copy that you can create essentially an air gap vault of your file data, a tertiary copy as well. So with that, I'm going to jump into a quick demo and show you guys what some of these new features look like in the cluster. Before I do that, though, does anybody have any questions, concerns, comments, anything?
I posted a question on the chat. How much additional infrastructure? I assume the Saperna product is not included with it. So how much infrastructure is required to handle, all this additional kind of work bot and auditing and additional capabilities?
Yeah, so Saperna's VApp is pretty minimal. I can send you on their website. It's basically, it depends on how big your environment is. It could be a couple of VMs that are decently lightweight, or it could be, we could scale it out. So if you wanted to have ransomware defense across a large file environment that's on Isilon, we would need to know like how much it's protecting, because it would change, right? We would require more VMs if it was larger. But I can give you, so if you go to Saperna, SapernaEyeglass.com. All of the spec sheets and stuff are right here. So
okay, thanks.
I'm going to send you this link, and that will go into what's required at what scale, right? If I can find the chat. I don't know where it went.
I got you.
Found it. Yeah, so this is Saperna's website. You can see all their products on there. Also the spec sheets around VMs. Like I said, it depends on which of their products you're using and what scale of files that it's protecting. It'll vary. So here's the OneFS interface, right? Same old Isilon that everybody's used to. One thing to note over here, pre 8.2, we had a flash requirement. Flash is dead and gone. So we no longer have a flash requirement. It's all HTML5, all nice little charts and graphs. We haven't had Java in as long as I can remember, so that was never a thing. So literally, you just go to an IP 8080 and you're managing the cluster, right? This is just a simulator, so it's only got one node. But as you can see off to the right, all HTML5, no flash dependencies, which is a big difference. I showed you auditing. Real quick, you just enable configuration change, protocol access. You can pick which zones you want to audit. So if you have multiple zones or multiple landing spots for end users, all a zone is, an access zone is kind of a way of segmenting logically the file system to make it look like multiple file systems. But you can pick and choose which zones you want to audit as well, and you can get those audit logs off to a different, like a syslog server or something else. If you go to object storage here, if you go to protocols, you can see now we have an object storage tab. So just click on that, and you can create a bucket here, which is really simple, a name, owner, give it a user, and then give it a path in the file system. You can give it ACLs as well, and then you create a bucket. And then you can take an S3 client or a client and talk to Isilon via S3 and drop files, get, puts, basically CRUD functions. There's also key management as well. You can create secret keys and things. Go into another big thing was the network configuration. I was talking about multiple SSIPs. So if you go to your subnet settings here, if you were to edit you can add multiple. Yeah, so you can add multiple SSIPs now. That way, if there's ever a node that goes down, the cluster literally, it'll just, all the clients will reconnect and go to the next node. It's set up that way anyway, but if node 1 were to go down in the past, it would cause a little bit of a latency there. Not anymore. So literally the Isilon is redundant in its architecture, and to do an upgrade is non-disruptive, to add capacity to clusters non-disruptive, to do an entire tech refresh of the hardware itself is non-disruptive. We have just made this thing bulletproof, pretty much, from an admin perspective. And that's pretty much, I mean, unless anybody else has any questions or anything I want to show you, that's kind of the new stuff in the GUI. Anything else you guys want to see? Well, Jeremy, unless you have anything else, that'll end the demo here.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. We appreciate it. So, Mr. Michael, who's joining us from Mesa, Arizona, out on the golf course. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. We got several people here, and I'm hoping you might be able to help us out with our slices.
We can definitely do that. So I'll just introduce myself real quick. My name is Michael Field. I'm the director of golf at Las Sendas Golf Club out here in Mesa, Arizona. It's only 99 degrees today, so the real heat hasn't got us in the summer yet. But hopefully I can go through just a couple of things to help you guys and gals get a little bit better with this crazy game we call golf. So without further ado, let me switch the video around and we'll get into a couple quick concepts. And then I really want to get everyone involved and asking questions. For those of you that play golf or are interested in golf or are just looking to improve a little bit and maybe play a little more often. So let's get into it. So this is my first time ever doing a clinic via online, so a little bit like Andrew, I might be looking down a little more than I should be. Anyway, so first thing I want to do, can everyone see me? Can everyone see my grip here?
Yeah, we can see you.
Perfect. Okay, so I just want to go over the grip. The grip is one of the most important things when you're learning how to play golf. And there's 3 different types of grips that you can use. And then
Michael, you might want to back up a little bit more. We see your torso. There we go.
Okay, so there's 3 different types of grips when you're starting to learn how to play golf. And there's also 3 different ways that we can have our hands position on the grip. One's called strong, one's called neutral, one's called weak. But before we get into that, I want to get into the 3 different types of grips. So most common is a 10-finger grip. That's where hands go right down the middle, basically swinging it like a baseball bat, except our thumbs go right down the middle. That's 10-finger. Most commonly used by beginners, maybe people who haven't had much instruction, or sometimes older people that once they get into their later years, they want just a little bit more power. Not the best for accuracy though. The second grip, this is more of an old school grip. This is where we put our hands, and for those of you that are just sitting at your desk right now, you can just grab a pencil and put the pencil right in your grip like this golf club I have here. And we're gonna take our right hand, this is for right-handed golfers, and you're gonna place your hands on the grip so that your pinky, you guys can see that, just overlaps my index finger on my left hand there. So this one's called an overlap grip. This one is more, I'd say, old school. Those of you whose parents or grandparents got you into the game, this was probably the grip that they used. Like I said, this is overlap. So we got 10-finger, we got overlap, and then the most common nowadays is the interlock grip. So it's basically the overlap, except we're going to take these 2 fingers, the index and the pinky, and we're going to interlock them together. This is the grip that Tiger Woods uses and about 90% of the other people on the PGA Tour. There is one guy on the PGA Tour that goes 10 finger. Not very common though. So, like I said, the three grips are 10 finger, overlap, and interlock. Now I'm gonna hit a couple golf balls here really quick because I wanna show you guys, everyone, that when you get your hands on the grip, how we position our hands on the grip, depending on which grip you're using, is very important. And it actually has a lot to do with where the club face is gonna be pointing when you make contact with the ball. So, if I position my hands on the grip this way, so that this little crease here and this crease here are pointing way to the right, as you can see, that would be a strong grip. And then this one would be a weak grip. And then somewhere right in the middle there to get these two creases pointed towards our right collarbone or right shoulder. This would be a neutral or good grip, something that most instructors are going to teach. Like I said, this is more of a basic concept. 3 different grips. We got strong, weak, and neutral. So I'm going to hit a couple golf balls for you here, and I'm going to demonstrate what happens with a really strong grip or a really weak grip or something kind of the middle there, neutral. So I use the interlock grip, and I've always used that since I learned how to play the game. I grew up in New Hampshire playing hockey, but also started playing golf at 6 years old. So a lot of the memories I have of just starting aren't really there, but I've given probably over 2,500 lessons, clinics, group lessons. I've seen it all. Anyway, so if I have a grip that is really strong, so these creases are pointing way to the right. If I have a grip that's really strong, that's going to promote the golf ball to go left on it. I'll show
So
you.
Andrew, we have a question in regards, is the thumb still inside the top hand?
Yes. This little, if you can see this crease right here, the little half moon there, that's where your thumb is going to kind of fit in and your right hand's just going to wrap over. So it's interlocked here. We got both thumbs going down the middle. Maybe if I go this way. Easier to see there.
Yes.
That answer your question, Andrew?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm showing you this so that when you guys go out and you gals go out and play golf, if you're hitting it way to the left or if you're hitting it way to the right, this will kind of help you figure out why and kind of fix your golf swing. So if I have a really strong grip, you'll see this with like Zach Johnson or Dustin Johnson, some guys on the PGA Tour, really strong grip. That's going to promote the golf ball go left a little bit, or more so, promote the face of the club to be closed. So let's see if you can see the golf ball flying through the air. This is a really strong grip. Anyone see the golf ball there?
I saw it leave.
Left in a hurry, didn't it? So that one started at the 2 flags down there and then hooked all the way up onto the hills. Now, if I have a grip that's weak, so this crease and this crease is kind of going towards my chin or my left shoulder, then that's going to promote more of an open club face. And this is maybe the most popular mistake with people that are learning how to play golf, or people that just haven't had any instruction yet. A lot of people have a slice where it cuts away from them, and it's mainly caused because they have a grip that's a little too weak. And it's not how hard you're holding the club, it's just really how your hands are positioned on it. So if I go really weak, I'm over this way, I'm exaggerating it a little bit, this is what you'll get. So you see that one went high and out to the right. Now, let's say Coach Mike told me the right way how to do it. I can get this crease going towards my right collarbone. And I put that hand on, so you can see that crease going to the right collarbone also. This is what most instructors will teach. And assuming you do a bunch of other right stuff in your golf swing, correct things, the golf ball should go a lot straighter. I hit the big ball first, but it did go straight. So, quick little recap on the grip. We have 10 finger, overlap, interlock, and then those 3 grips, you can have them on the club, either very strong, a little weaker, or neutral, right in the middle. Does anyone have any questions on that? On the grip, and maybe how you can fix which way the golf ball is curving based on your grip?
I do have a question in regards to properly hitting a stinger.
Hitting what?
Hitting a stinger.
Hitting a stinger.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, the stinger, the old Tiger stinger. My 3-iron's on the ground right now. The reason I put a club on the ground is anytime you're hitting golf balls and practicing or anything, it's always really good to have some sort of alignment aid where I can get my feet, my hips, my shoulders, and my swing path all parallel. Anytime you do that, that's going to really help you. But Jeremy is wanting to see a stinger, me on the spot here. So we're going to use a 3-iron. That is the iron with probably the least amount of loft, unless you have a 2-iron or a 1-iron. The whole idea of this shot is to keep it under the wind, keep it low, keep it controlled. You'll see Tiger hit this a lot, maybe when he gets back healthy again. But on shorter par 4s, just to keep it in the fairway, keep it in the short grass. This is the shot he'll hit. And a couple of key points in hitting this shot is ball position. I'll show you real quick. So when I was hitting those 7-irons there, I was positioning the ball basically right in the middle of my stance. With the 3-iron, I'm going to position it a little bit further back in my stance. That'll actually de-loft the club a little bit to keep the ball coming out a little bit lower. And the second thing that I'm going to do is when I follow through, I'm going to really abbreviate my follow through, and I'm going to keep it short. That'll also keep the golf ball a little closer to the ground. The stinger is long iron, low to the ground, but controlled. And it also looks really cool when you do it the right way. All right, let's see what I got here. Jeremy, you got me.
That looked like one of my tee shots.
All right, like I said, I hit the big ball first. Earth is not the ball you want to hit first. All right, second time's a charm here, guys. Let's go. Were you able to see the golf ball there?
I saw it till it started going down the hill.
It's probably stayed about 20 feet off the ground and had a little bit of a drop to it. So now I was going to mention or go over one more quick concept if we have time, and also barring if anyone had any questions. I would love to open it up to more personalized instruction for any of you that play golf and maybe have an issue, whether it's short game or driver or irons. So if anyone has questions, we'll go that route, but if not, I've got one more thing I can go over.
I did have a question from Patrick DeZeller is, what is the most correctable error made mid, say, 15 handicap players?
Most correctable error. The first thing I would, Huh?
Practice?
Yeah, that's a good one. I would probably say course management. The 15 handicapper, they have enough talent to and knowledge and experience to get the golf ball around the golf course. But I would say the most important thing is treating each hole kind of like your turn in pool, if you're playing pool, where you really want to make sure you set yourself up for the next shot. I think too many people, they go out there and they just hit driver right off the tee because it's not a par three. I think you really got to take a look at the hole, figure out what your comfortable yardages are, and map out kind of your plan of attack throughout each hole. And a lot of the times you don't have to hit driver off the tee. Sometimes it's better to lay up to comfortable yardages, hit something that adds a little more control, something maybe a little more like the second stinger, not the first one. But yeah, I think course management would probably be the easiest thing for people to fix because they just don't think about it. And they obviously want to hit the high bomb driver and watch it go a million yards, but that doesn't always add up to lower scores. So I think course management is probably the best thing you could, or the easiest thing you could improve on, and probably most common.
A couple questions here is how to correct the slice
Yep.
and also correct a fade.
Okay. All right. So I'm actually going to pull out the driver now. And we're going to talk about the grip like we did before, but we're also going to talk about swing path. I see this a lot of amateurs. They have a swing path that goes from outside to in, and then they have a grip where it's creating an open club face. So when you have an open club face and swing path going outside to in, it's going to create a lot of spin, and it's going to slice out to the right. It'll probably look a little bit like this. So big, high slice out to the right. How do you fix that? Couple things. Swing path, I said earlier, needs to be parallel to this club on the ground. Now there are some smaller characteristics that we can talk about up here that gets a little bit more advanced, like maybe keeping the right elbow a little bit more connected. That will allow you to keep the club inside and not come over the top across it. But if you can get swing path right down the line, and then also strengthen your grip. So go clockwise with it about an hour or two so that these creases go to your right shoulder. That will keep the club face square through impact. And if we swing parallel to our target line, that club on the ground, that's going to create a very straight shot, and that'll cure your slice. So, see if I can hit one a little straighter now. Almost hit that airplane. All right, what's the next question?
What club, besides the pitching wedge, would you recommend a high handicapper use for chipping? I prefer the hand wedge or the foot wedge.
Yeah, Charles Barkley was out here not too long ago. He was using the hand wedge all over the place. Actually, it's funny. Yeah, first time I met him, I was standing behind the 18th green. I was like, "Who's that guy?" And I see someone just walking around in the bunker and then throw their golf ball out. I'm like, "Oh, that's Charles Barkley." So, all right. So these are all my wedges. I have a pitching wedge. I have a 52, which is called the gap wedge, and then 56 and 60, and these all have 4-degree increments. So this is 48, 52, 56, 60. For amateur golfers chipping around the green, I always tell them use the club that you're most comfortable with. But I am going to try to explain just a little concept for you real quick. Now, when you're chipping, I'll show you some good setup. That's where we can definitely improve. So So set up, too many people set up with the ball position in the middle of their stance or forward, and they want to try to help the golf ball up in the air. You want to do the complete opposite. You actually want to put the ball towards the back of your stance and get your grip a little closer to your left thigh. And if you notice, that'll create a nice straight line between my left arm and the club. And then from there, all you have to do is just rotate. And yeah, get a little more weight on the left side, ball position back, create your straight line, and then just rotate. And if the pin is really close to you and you don't have a lot of green to work with, use a different club opposed to the pins all the way in the back and you do have a lot of green to work with. If the pin's in the back, take something with less loft, like the pitching wedge. It'll come out lower and roll more. If the pin's really close to you, use something like a 60 degree and let the golf ball get up in the air and then land a little bit softer and not roll as far. So you can almost use like a little equation with ratios depending on the amount of green that you have to work with for the golf ball to roll and how much you need the golf ball to carry in the air for, you should be able to use that setup and figure out kind of how much loft to use based on where the pin is. If that answers the question, hopefully. What do we got next, Jeremy?
I've got no further questions.
No further questions. Okay. How much time do we have, Jeremy?
As much time as you want, my friend.
Okay. So, I don't know how many people watching today are more experienced or advanced golfers, but I can kind of build on that little grip concept I was telling you about before. So, I'll hit 3 golf balls again for you. So this one is timing. So when we are swinging the golf club, timing is the sequence of events of different body parts moving at a different time. And more simple explanation is when we get to the top of our backswing, we want to start from the ground up. We want our hips starting to rotate, and then we want our upper body and our shoulders and our arms to follow. And if things aren't working in that sequence, we can hit the ball all over the place. You'll have no idea where it's going. You'll miss it left, you'll miss it right, hit it high, hit it low. So if our timing can get better, along with a good grip, you are going to be well on your way to hitting a greater golf shot. And it'll be more fun. So let's say I make a golf swing where I don't use any lower body. And lower body just kind of stays in a block of ice. It's all upper body. It'll look weird. That look like a good golf swing, Jeremy?
It's already better than mine.
Okay. So that was someone swinging the golf club and not using the lower body. I don't know if you saw where the golf ball went, but it was very low and it was hooking left. Now, let's say I swing the golf club, I take the club back, and then I basically only use lower body to get through the shot. Guess where the golf ball is going to go? Now the golf ball went way right, out of the driving range, into the first fairway. And that was me using too much lower body and not enough upper body. So if we can get to the top of our backswing, get the hips moving, get everything following in the right sequence, then we should hit a much straighter golf ball. And of course, we need a good grip along with that. All right, so that one went a little bit to the right, a little off the toe, but I kept it on the planet. And that was because I had a little better timing, better grip, and that'll help. So just to recap, grip. If you have a really strong grip, that can make it go left. You have a really weak grip, that can make it go right. You want to get your grip with those creases pointed towards the right shoulder. And then also, we want to make sure that we're using our lower body, letting the upper body follow, and getting into a good finish. You can get through into a good finish and you have a good grip, you're going to be better off than, I'd say, probably 90% of the people that play golf. That's probably the best thing I can give everyone to kind of self-diagnose their swing and hopefully
I
a
had
little better.
a question come in, which I think or goes straight into kind of picks up right where you are.
Yeah.
Gentleman says he is curious of your opinion on the path your hands take at the beginning of the downswing, the drop, and maintain width.
That's a really good question. I'm a firm believer in having the hands come down the same path that we take it back on, just to keep things simple. That's a really good question. Let me tee one up for you.
You might want to turn your camera around, though.
I will. Like I said, this is my first time doing this. This is a learning experience.
That's good.
All right. So the path that my hands take on the way down, also on the way up, is that the question?
Curious of your opinion of the path the hands take at the beginning of the downswing, drop, maintain width.
Okay. Okay, so that kind of goes back to the timing thing. When we get to the top of the backswing, we're here. My shoulders can't rotate anymore. My left arm is staying straight. So that's as far back as I can go right now. When I start getting my left hip rotating and going behind me, that is going to force my hands down on the same path that I took it back on, as long as I get into a good position up here. So I don't like to really think about the path that my hands are on the way down, more so that I like to think about getting my left hip behind me so that when I rotate through, everything else just kind of falls into place. It's not something that I have to think about. So I get to the top of my backswing, and then I start rotating with my hips, and that's automatically going to force my shoulders and swing path through the ball. And in terms of width, if you're talking about just the general width of your kind of big circle that you make with your golf swing, I think a nice wide stance and taking the club back low and away, you're always going to create a lot of width. The bigger the circle, the more speed you're going to create, the farther you'll hit the ball. But I think maybe grip and timing is probably more important than path. If you really focus on the timing, then I think a lot of those other things fall into place.
Okay, I got another good one here for you.
Okay.
So it's classified as a rookie question.
Love it.
So for a beginner, what's important to look for in golf club set? They seem to be available at all price levels. Like, is an $800 driver really 20 times better than a $40 driver? Any tips on what to look for in equipment for a beginner?
Yes. In my experience, I've given a bunch of lessons to a lot of people that are just starting the game. Usually with beginners, what I would do is I would use one of our golf courses' ladies rental sets to get them into the game, give them some instruction and get them started on the right foot. And when they finally get to the point where they have set up, they got posture, they can make contact with the ball, get it up in the air, maybe even go play 9 holes and know what they're doing. When you get to that point, then it's most important to go get fitted for a set of golf clubs. A lot of the times you can get free fittings. Just depends on what companies you go through. You can spend anywhere from nothing to like $500 on a fitting. But I think it's much more important and really beneficial to get golf clubs fitted to you. I think you should spend a little bit more money, get fitted golf clubs if you're serious about it. And don't spend the $800 or $1,000 on just a starter set. That is basically like buying something off the shelf that is built for kind of the average size person. So it's not going to be fitted to you. You're probably still going to struggle, and you're probably still going to end up getting fitted and getting a nicer set of golf clubs in the future. So skip that whole process. Get some golf lessons. Start with short swings, putting, chipping. And then once you're comfortable going out on the golf course, go get fitted and get a nice set. Spend the money once, and then you won't have to worry about it for at least 5 or 10 or 12 years. That's my opinion.
And another question that came up, and it's not in the chat, is there anything wrong with using a bat wedge on a course?
Using a what?
A bat wedge.
Oh, a bad wedge?
No, a bat wedge, B-A-T wedge.
A bat wedge. What's a bat wedge?
It's your son's baseball bat. Is that frowned upon?
You know what? That's actually, you can hit the ball long ways with a bat. You got to be careful. Yeah, I think that was one of the tricks that Tin Cup used in the movie. He was, playing 9 holes gambling with a bat and a shovel. I strongly suggest the bat off the tee, but keep an eye on the accuracy. That's a good one. Any more there, Jeremy?
No. Anybody else have any questions? Feel free to either put them in the chat or unmute yourself.
All right. So we'll come back over to this side. But yeah, I'll do a quick little plug-in for Las Sendas. It's up in Northeast Mesa. The views are unbelievable. You can see the entire valley. If anyone's ever out here in Arizona and wants to play a great golf course, it is a little bit more difficult than most. But like I said, really good views and great restaurant, good amenities. So if anyone's ever planning a golf trip, feel free to call here, get a hold of me, and we'll make sure we give you guys some good rates.
I can get you guys his information if anybody needs it. I'm happy to send it your way. I did just want to add really quick before anybody starts hopping off here or anything. To everybody that joined the call today, thank you guys. You will be receiving a Odyssey putter. I was like, maybe you could give them a little bit of information about that, Mike. An Odyssey putter and a sleeve of, you're going to have to correct me on this as well, Mike, because I'm sure I'll get it wrong. Titleist Pro V1 golf balls.
You nailed it. Odyssey.
Right? Yeah. All right. And I was like, and they have the little Advizex logo on them.
Oh, nice.
I know, right? So yeah.
Odyssey's a great putter. I think it's the #1 putter used on the PGA Tour, and the Titleist Pro V1 is the #1 golf ball used on the PGA Tour. So you did very well.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. This is new for me, so I'm glad that I did something right here. I also wanted to add, we do have a few extra giveaways. I don't know if we want to get into that right now, or if you guys want to, you have anything else to tie off on or anything else to say, Mike. I'm happy to let you keep going.
No. If anyone wants my information, yeah, please pass it along, and I'd be happy to answer questions or even talk about your golf swing. It gives me an excuse to stop working for a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, maybe you could give them some information. So I have 3, I know I'm going to mess this up. 3, I told you what it was though the other day, 3 tailor-made sim drivers.
Yes.
There's a number after that sim though. What is it?
Sim 2. That's the newest model. There's a bunch of different sim drivers. There's sim 1, sim 2, sim 2 max.
I'm going to say they probably gave me the newest model when I went in and asked for a good driver. They probably set me up with the newest one. So I'm going to say sim 2. So I've got 3 of those roughly to raffle off here. and I've got my big wine cup here to pull names out of. So I know, I'm classy. So you guys, I'm just gonna go ahead and jump into that then. All right, there's like nothing else to say about that.
For you.
So these people had to be on the call in order to win this, okay? So everybody that's about to win, you had to be on the call. So congrats for just showing up, all right? The first driver will be going to Jack Haney. Jack Haney, you still on here? I think you are. Yep, I see you. Okay, cool. So I will be reaching out to you, your rep. We'll see how to get these delivered to you, because obviously I'm sending out all these other putters and balls, so they will come. The next driver, Austin Pritchard. Austin Pritchard, you still on there? Yeah, you are.
Hey. Awesome.
Yeah, congrats.
Nice.
All right, and then one more driver, and then don't hang up, because I've got 2 golf bags to give away as well. So I know all sorts of fun things to start your golf season off here. Jim Leffeld. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with pronouncing things. Jim Leffeld, you still on? You were also winning a driver.
Yes, he
You
is.
are, but I couldn't let you
Yeah,
talk
Jim.
without promoting you to a panelist there. I just promoted you to a panelist, so maybe you can talk now, Jim. All right, with that being said, those were my drivers to give away. Now I'm gonna try to show you this golf bag. It's a nice golf bag, and I don't know anything about golf. It was like that. It's got some wheels on it, it looks like. I don't really know. It was actually, it was one of the PGA Tour golf bags, because that was what the guy at the store told me. So I'm saying that's what it is. Let's see, I've got 2 of those to give away, and one of them is green and yellow. I'm not promising the other one's green and yellow, but one of them is. So maybe I'll ask your favorite color when I do this. Let's see. Mike Hamilton. Mike Hamilton, are you still on the call? Yes, maybe. Yes, no, I don't see you.
Do not see Mike Hamilton.
You don't see him on there?
No, I do not.
All right, well then we might have to draw a different name then, because Mike, I know he was there before. Oh well. And other one goes to Hal Parker. Hal Parker, you still on as well, Hal?
Yes, he is.
Great, great stuff. Okay, cool. So all I was going to say about that is I will be reaching out to you all directly. I think your Advizex rep will probably be delivering these to you, or trying to set up a meeting here. But anyways, congrats everyone. Thank you all so much for joining. I don't think I have anything else to give away anymore, but I'm going to pass it back to Jeremy or Mike.
All right.
Mike, wanted to thank you for your time today. Great information. Appreciate you joining. Try to keep cool out there.
Will do. No, thank you guys very much for having me. It was a pleasure, and wish everyone the best of luck.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for joining. Have a great evening. And if there's any questions you have over PowerScale, please reach out to us. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.